Hey everyone, welcome back to the British Accent Podcast. I'm Nick.
And I'm Emily. We're really glad you're here today, because we're diving into something that doesn't get talked about enough: how the pressure to become fluent in English can actually mess with your mental health.
Yeah, people usually focus on goals like speak like a native or get fluent fast, but they forget how heavy that pressure can feel, especially when you're trying to juggle everything else in life.
Totally. Sometimes it's not just about studying more or speaking better. Sometimes it's about how hard we're being on ourselves. Like that voice in your head saying, "Why am I still making mistakes?" Or "Everyone else is better than me."
That voice can be brutal. And when you hear it every day, it starts to wear you down. You lose motivation. You feel ashamed. And suddenly, something that was supposed to be exciting, learning a new language, becomes a source of anxiety.
And that's the thing. English should be a tool for connection, growth, maybe even joy. But when we tie it too closely to our self-worth, it gets dangerous. You feel like you're not enough until you're fluent, and that's a really toxic mindset.
Yeah, I've had students say things like, "I'll feel confident when I speak perfectly," or "people will only respect me when my grammar is flawless." And that kind of pressure, it's heavy. It leads to burnout, self-doubt, even depression.
And here's the truth: fluency is not a finish line. It's not something that suddenly makes you more valuable as a person. You're allowed to have an accent. You're allowed to pause. You're allowed to be learning. It doesn't make you less.
Exactly. Learning a language is a journey, not a performance. And your mental health deserves to be protected along the way. You don't have to be perfect to be proud of yourself.
We really want to talk more about what this pressure looks like, how it shows up in daily life, and what you can do when it starts to hurt instead of help.
You know what's wild, Emily? A lot of learners don't even realize how tense they are until they take a break, and suddenly feel relief. Like, they've been holding their breath just trying to sound perfect.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. People apologizing for their English constantly, even when they're totally understandable. It's like they feel guilty for not being flawless, and that guilt is exhausting.
It's like every conversation turns into a test. Did I say that correctly? Did I sound smart enough? Did I use the right tense? But real conversations aren't tests. They're human moments.
Yes. And honestly, that pressure to always be improving can backfire. Instead of motivating you, it starts to feel like you're never good enough. No matter how far you've come, your brain only sees the next flaw.
That's the perfection trap. And here's the thing, when you're constantly under pressure, your brain actually learns less. Stress messes with memory, focus, and creativity. So trying to force fluency can slow you down.
Exactly. That pressure to perform can block you from learning. Especially when you're so scared of making mistakes that you stop speaking altogether. I've had learners tell me, "I know the words, but I freeze when I try to speak."
Yeah. And then they beat themselves up for freezing, which creates even more pressure. It's a cycle. But that freeze doesn't mean you're bad at English. It means you're human, and your brain's trying to protect you from embarrassment.
So true. The brain's like, "Hey, this feels dangerous, let's shut it down." But speaking a new language is supposed to feel messy. That's how it works. We just need to make it feel safer and kinder.
And that kindness has to come from both outside and inside. Teachers, friends, tutors, they need to support without judging. But most importantly, you have to stop being your own worst critic.
Right? We've both seen learners grow so much when they give themselves permission to be imperfect. When they say, "Okay, I made a mistake, but I'm still learning, and that's okay."
Those moments are powerful. That's when English becomes something you own, not something you fear. And mental peace is just as important as pronunciation.
You know what else I've noticed? A lot of learners carry this invisible shame. Like they feel embarrassed for not being fluent yet, even if they've only been learning for a few months. But, no one's fluent after a few months. That's just not how languages work.
Totally. And sometimes it comes from comparing themselves to others. That person sounds better than me. Why can they speak confidently, and I can't? But we never know the full story, how long they've been practicing, or what kind of support they've had.
Exactly. And even native speakers make mistakes. I mean, I mess up words all the time, and English is my first language. So why are we expecting learners to be flawless?
That's such a good point. Like, I've had learners get so frustrated because they mixed up two tenses. But they understood the conversation, they expressed their ideas, and they communicated. That's the whole point of language, right?
Yes. It's not about passing some invisible exam every time you open your mouth. It's about connection. And if you connected, even with a few grammar mistakes, you succeeded.
And here's the deeper thing, when someone feels ashamed of their English, they often stop using it. And then they feel even worse for not improving. It becomes this emotional spiral, shame, silent stagnation, more shame.
Yeah. And we've got to break that cycle. Because the truth is, your value is not based on how perfect your English is. You're not more worthy after you become fluent. You're worthy while you're learning.
That's something I wish every learner could hear on repeat. Like, maybe put it on a sticky note, I'm allowed to learn at my own pace. I'm allowed to make mistakes. I'm doing something brave.
Oh, I love that. Because learning a language is brave. You're literally rebuilding how you think, speak, and express yourself in real time. That takes so much courage, and it deserves respect.
So much. And maybe instead of asking, am I fluent yet, people should start asking, am I being kind to myself while I learn?
Yes. Because fluency might take time. But kindness, that can start today.
You know, I think one of the biggest lies people believe is that if they are struggling, it must mean they are not trying hard enough. But sometimes, people are trying too hard. They are pushing so much, without rest, without breaks, that their brain just shuts down.
Yes. And it's not about laziness, it's burnout. Language burnout is real. You can love English, be passionate about learning, and still feel exhausted. That doesn't mean you've failed. It means your mind needs a breather.
And sometimes, that break actually helps you come back stronger. Like, after resting, your brain has space again. Your thoughts are clearer. You actually start to enjoy learning again.
Right? It's like going to the gym. If you train the same muscle every single day without recovery, it's going to break down, not grow. Learning English is the same. Your brain needs time to process, absorb, and reset.
Totally. And here's something I always tell learners, it's okay to slow down. Fast isn't always better. Consistency and mental well-being are way more important than speed.
I wish more learners celebrated their small wins instead of only chasing big ones. Like, hey, you understood a podcast episode today. That's amazing. You asked a question in class even though you were nervous. That's growth.
Those small moments are the real victories. But they get ignored because everyone's focused on some fantasy of perfect fluency. And perfection is a moving target, you never quite get there, so you always feel like you're failing.
Exactly. It becomes this unreachable mountain. But if you look back at where you started, your first English word, your first sentence, your first full conversation, you'll see how far you've actually come.
Yeah. And even the act of showing up to learn when you're tired, discouraged, or overwhelmed, that's strength. That's commitment. That's resilience.
And that resilience deserves more applause than any perfect grammar score ever could. Because it means you're still here, still trying, even when it's hard.
That's what makes a real language learner. Not how fast you speak, but how gently you treat yourself through the ups and downs.
You know, sometimes I wonder how many amazing people have given up on learning English, not because they couldn't do it, but because they thought they weren't good enough.
Yeah, that really gets me. They weren't lacking talent, they were drowning in pressure. From teachers, from society, from themselves. And when all you hear is, "You should be better by now," it's easy to forget how far you've already come.
It's heartbreaking, really. Because language should be something that brings connection, confidence, and joy. Not fear or shame.
Totally. And the thing is, you can't build confidence by constantly criticizing yourself. You build confidence by giving yourself permission to be where you are.
That reminds me of this learner I used to work with. She always said, "I'll feel confident when I speak perfectly." And I told her, no. You'll feel confident when you let yourself speak imperfectly and realize you survived.
That's gold. It's not about perfection, it's about being brave enough to keep speaking, even when it's messy.
Because that's real life, right? Messy, awkward, sometimes embarrassing. But also beautiful, full of growth, and meaningful.
And honestly, those little awkward moments, they usually make the best memories. Like saying kitchen instead of chicken on a date. You laugh, you learn, and you never forget it again.
Yes. Mistakes aren't failures, they are experiences. They are stories. They are proof that you're living the language instead of just studying it.
And maybe that's the point. Maybe fluency isn't about never making mistakes. Maybe it's about being okay when you do, and choosing to keep going anyway.
That's it, Nick. That's the mindset shift we need, from pressure to permission. From fear to patience. From "I must be fluent now," to "I'm proud of myself for showing up today."
So if you're listening to this and you've been feeling overwhelmed, we just want you to know, it's okay. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're just human.
Yeah. And being human means you'll have good days, tough days, days when words don't come out right, and days when you surprise yourself. All of that is part of learning. Part of growing.
So don't give up just because it's hard right now. Take a breath. Take a break if you need to. But don't let the pressure steal the joy from your journey.
We believe in you. And we hope you start believing in yourself again too, bit by bit, word by word.
Thanks for spending your time with us here on the British Accent Podcast. Take care of your English, but more importantly, take care of you.
You're doing better than you think. We'll see you in the next episode. Keep going.